Some nights feel ordinary, silent, still, familiar. But sometimes the quiet hides something unnatural. It was a cold, lonely night in a quiet neighborhood. A single street lamp flickered outside, casting eerie shadows along the pavement. The house stood in silence, its dark windows reflecting nothing but emptiness. Inside, a teenager sat alone, unaware that the night would change everything. The air felt heavy, suffocating, as if the darkness itself was watching. Unseen, unheard, waiting. They had no idea, but something else was there. And before the sun rose again, they would no longer doubt the existence of the unknown. Inside, the glow of the television flickered, casting restless shadows across the dimly lit living room. A teenager sat curled up on the couch, watching horror movies, their phone screen flashing occasionally in the darkness. The house was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that presses against your ears, making you hyper-aware of every little sound. They laughed at the movies, knowing it was all fake, just stories. But deep down, something felt off. A strange tension hung in the air, subtle yet undeniable. If only they had known. The real horror wasn't on the screen. It was already here. The bathroom light buzzed faintly, casting a dull yellow glow over the small space. Steam clung to the mirror as water dripped rhythmically from the faucet. The teenager splashed cold water on their face, trying to shake off the unease creeping into their thoughts. They stared into the mirror, but something felt wrong. The reflection seemed slightly off, distorted, as if the room itself was holding its breath. A flicker, a shadow. Just for a moment, something shifted behind them. They spun around. Nothing, just empty air. But the feeling remained crawling under their skin. They weren't alone. Not anymore. The hallway was dark, the air thick with an unnatural stillness. As the teenager stepped out of the bathroom, something shifted in the corner of their vision. A figure, tall, familiar, stood in the shadows of the unlit living room. Their breath caught. It had their mother's height, but no features, no face, just a hollow human-like shape swallowed by the darkness. "Mom?" they called, voice uncertain. Silence. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood. A sickening dread crept up their spine. They blinked and it was gone. The silence stretched heavier now. Deep down they knew. They were not alone. The living room was exactly as they had left it. Or so they thought. Something felt off, a small but undeniable shift in the air. Then, they saw it. The bamboo plant, usually sitting neatly on the bookshelf, was now on the opposite side. Their stomach tightened. Had they moved it earlier? They tried to shake the unease, forcing logic where logic didn't belong. With hesitant hands, they placed it back, heart pounding against their ribs. But deep inside, a quiet dread whispered. Something had moved it, not them, not the wind, something unseen. And it wasn't done playing yet. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Then, a sound, faint but unmistakable. Glass, scraping against wood. The teenager froze, breath caught in their throat. Slowly, they turned their head toward the bookshelf. The bamboo plant. It was moving, not falling, not tilting, sliding across the surface on its own, inch by inch. Their pulse pounded, terror swelling in their chest. No wind, no explanation. Just the slow, deliberate movement of something unseen. The air felt heavier, charged with something unnatural. They wanted to run, but fear held them still. Deep down they knew, whatever was here, it wasn't friendly. The clock read 3:30 a.m. Sleep was impossible. The house felt different, wrong. As they returned from the bathroom, their steps faltered. Their breath hitched. The bamboo plant was no longer on the shelf. Instead, it lay shattered on the floor, shards of glass reflecting the dim light, soil spilled across the wood. Their chest tightened. This wasn't possible. They had just seen it sitting untouched. A creeping dread slithered up their spine. The room was silent, yet the air felt thick, charged. Something had done this, not them, not the wind, something unseen. And it was getting bolder, The first rays of morning light crept through the windows, casting long shadows across the quiet living room. The teenager sat motionless on the couch, their mind replaying the events of the night over and over. The glass, the movement, the thing in the hallway. It wasn't paranoia, it wasn't a dream, it happened, and now nothing felt safe anymore. The jingling of keys broke the silence. The front door creaked open, and their mother stepped inside. Exhaustion etched across her face. Relief flooded through them, but only for a moment. They told her everything, voice shaking, hands still trembling. She listened, concern growing in her eyes. But no explanations, no comforting words could erase what they had seen. As they sat together, the house felt deceptively normal again. Sunlight bathed the room, washing away the horrors of the night. But then, something small, subtle. The feeling of being watched lingered, clinging to the air like a whisper. The camera lingers on the empty house. A still shot of the living room, a shadow in the corner, tall, faceless, motionless, waiting. Some things don't leave, some things don't want to. The house was quiet, too quiet. A lone teenager sat curled on the couch, the dim glow of their phone screen casting eerie shadows across the walls. Outside, the night stretched on, deep and endless, pressing against the windows like an unseen force. The ticking clock in the distance was the only sound, each second dragging on like an eternity. Then, suddenly, a knock at the door. Soft at first, almost polite. The teenager's breath hitched. No one was expected tonight. Their mother's warning echoed in their mind. Don't answer the door for anyone. But the night was just getting started. The knock came again. Soft, deliberate. The teenager's heart pounded as they stared at the front door. The frosted glass barely revealed a shadow beyond, distorted and unmoving. Was it just one person, or more? A chill crept up their spine. Their mother's warning echoed in their mind. Don't answer the door for anyone. Swallowing hard, they took a step back. Silence followed. Maybe it was just a mistake. Someone at the wrong house. But then, bang! The knock turned to something harder, more forceful. The door trembled in its frame. Someone or something was determined to get inside. The knocking turned into furious pounding, multiple fists slamming against the door. The entire frame shook with each hit, the sound echoing through the empty house. It wasn't just one person. It was several. The teenager's breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. Their phone trembled in their hand, 1% battery. No time to think, no time to hesitate. They took a step back, then another. The door rattled violently, as if it could burst open at any second. A deep guttural voice muttered something from the other side, words they couldn't understand. And then, the pounding suddenly stopped. Dead silence. Then, crash! The sound of shattering glass ripped through the house. A cold gust of wind howled through the broken window, making the curtains billow like ghostly hands. The teenager's stomach dropped. They were inside. Panic surged through them as they clutched their phone, their fingers fumbling to dial. The screen flickered. 1% battery. Come on, come on. The line connected. A calm yet urgent voice answered. Emergency services. What is your location? But the teenager could barely speak. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall, slow and deliberate. They weren't just breaking in. They were coming for them. The teenager bolted down the hall, hard hammering. No lock on the bedroom door. Nowhere to hide except the bathroom. They lunged inside, slamming the door shut, twisting the flimsy lock with trembling fingers. Footsteps grew closer. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Shadows shifted under the doorframe, stretching like grasping fingers. They clamped a hand over their mouth, desperate to silence their ragged breaths. The handle jiggled. A pause, then a soft tap. Not pounding, not breaking, just waiting. The silence was worse than the noise. Then, through the crack under the door, a shadow moved. They knew exactly where they were. Then, sirens. Blinding red and blue lights flashed through the shattered window. The deafening roar of engines. A voice bellowed through the night. "On the ground now!" The teenager barely breathed, ears straining. Heavy boots pounded outside. A struggle. Shouts. Then, silence. Slowly, they unlocked the bathroom door, creeping toward the front of the house. Flashing lights revealed a shocking scene. Several men, restrained, their faces hidden in the chaos. Officers held them down, weapons drawn. The teenager's legs felt weak. They were safe, but as an officer approached, his face was grim. "Do you know why they were here?" The teenager shook their head, words caught in their throat. The officer exhaled, glancing toward the handcuffed men. His expression was unreadable, something between relief and unease. "They weren't trying to break in," he muttered under his breath. The teenager's stomach twisted. Not a robbery, not random. Then what? The night air felt heavier now, suffocating. The officer's eyes flicked toward the house, toward the broken window, toward the darkened hallway beyond. They were looking for something, or someone. A cold chill ran through the teenager's spine. If they weren't the target, then who or what was? The officers led the intruders away, their shadows disappearing into flashing lights. It should have been over, but the teenager couldn't shake the feeling. Something wasn't right. As they turned back toward the house, a faint chill prickled their skin. Their eyes drifted to the shattered window. In the cracked glass, their own pale reflection stared back. But they weren't alone. Behind them, deep in the shadows, something watched, a tall, faceless figure, featureless yet staring. The teenager spun around, nothing, just darkness, just silence. But they knew. It was still there, and it was never going to leave. The house stood in eerie silence, its dark windows staring blankly into the overcast sky. Wind howled through the empty street, rattling old fences and sending dead leaves swirling across the pavement. A lone street lamp flickered, its dim glow barely piercing the creeping dusk. Inside, the air was still, thick with an unnatural quiet. Alex was home, alone, unaware of the unseen presence that had already stepped into his world. The house was waiting, watching. Outside, the wind carried whispers through the trees, a warning that would go unheard. Something was coming, and before the night was over, Alex would know true fear. Inside, the house felt empty, yet something unseen lingered in the air. Dim light from an old lamp cast long shadows across the room, flickering as if disturbed by an invisible presence. The fireplace sat cold, untouched, while the rhythmic ticking of the clock echoed through the silence. Alex moved through the space, unaware of the weight pressing in around him. The air felt heavy, thick with an unspoken tension. Every creak of the wooden floor seemed louder than it should be. Every shadow stretched too far. Something was watching, hidden just beyond sight, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. The knock came suddenly, sharp, deliberate, echoing through the quiet house. Not from the front door, but the back. Alex froze, his pulse quickening. The wind howled outside, rattling the glass. But this sound was different, heavy, intentional. He stepped toward the door, his breath shallow. The glass pane revealed nothing but darkness beyond. No figure, no movement. Just an eerie emptiness staring back at him. A chill crept up his spine. Had he imagined it? Or was something standing just beyond sight, waiting? The air around him felt wrong, like the house itself was holding its breath. And then, silence. The cat hissed, its fur bristling, claws scraping against the wooden floor. Its wide, unblinking eyes were locked onto the back door, staring at something Alex couldn't see. A low, guttural growl rumbled from its throat, primal, terrified. The house, once eerily silent, now felt alive with tension. Alex hesitated, watching his pet's unnatural reaction. Animals sensed things humans could not. Was there something standing there just beyond the glass? The cat's tail twitched violently. Then, as if repelled by an unseen force, it bolted away. Alex's stomach tightened. The wind howled, but it wasn't the wind he feared. The house had settled into an eerie stillness until it happened. A blur of movement streaked past Alex's open doorway, too fast, too deliberate. His breath hitched. The air in the hallway felt thick, suffocating. Then, bang! His brother's door slammed shut with unnatural force. The cat shrieked, clawing at the wooden frame, desperate to escape whatever was inside. Alex's hands trembled as he reached for the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. No locks, no reason for it to be stuck. A deep, suffocating dread sank into his chest. He wasn't alone. Something was here. And it wasn't leaving. Alex didn't think. He just ran. His feet pounded against the pavement, the cold night air burning his lungs. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long, shifting shadows that seemed to stretch toward him. Every step felt like something was right behind him, unseen but closing in. The wind howled, whispering through the empty streets. But it wasn't the wind he feared. His grandmother's house was just ahead, its porch light a beacon of safety. He didn't dare look back. His gut told him the truth. If he did, he might see it, and if he saw it, it might see him too. Sleep came easily, but it didn't last. A sudden, violent crash of shattering glass ripped Alex from his dreams. His heart pounded as he sat up, ears straining in the suffocating silence that followed. Then, movement. A figure, dark and silent, glided past the staircase below, moving with an unnatural smoothness. It didn't acknowledge him. It didn't need to. A cold dread coiled in Alex's stomach as he crept to the stairs, his breath hitched. The kitchen lay in ruin, every cupboard and drawer thrown open, the back door yawning wide. He wasn't alone. Something had come inside, and it wasn't hiding anymore. The kitchen was a disaster. Every cabinet hung open, their contents strewn across the floor. Utensils, shattered plates, broken glass. It looked like something had torn through with reckless fury. But the air was still, unnaturally still. The back door stood wide open, the night beyond it yawning like a void. Alex swallowed hard, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Something had been here. No, something was still here. He could feel it. Watching, waiting. His skin prickled as the silence deepened. Then a single chair creaked as if something had just shifted its weight. He wasn't alone. He never was. His mother stood frozen, her face pale, eyes wide with something Alex had never seen before. True fear. Her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the counter, staring at the dark hallway. "I saw it," she whispered, barely audible. The words sent ice through Alex's veins. She had never believed him until now. The shadows in the house seemed deeper, stretched unnaturally long. The air was thick, suffocating, as if something unseen was pressing against reality itself. Then the faintest sound, a breath, a whisper echoed from the hallway. His mother's gaze didn't waver. She knew they had to leave. The house stood silent, empty, but not abandoned. Darkness pooled in its corners, stretching across the lifeless rooms. The wind rattled the windows, but inside the air was unnaturally still. Then, movement. A faint flicker in the upstairs window, too subtle to be the wind. A shadow shifted, slow and deliberate, as if something, or someone, still lingered, watching, waiting. The family had fled, but the house had not been left vacant. Whatever haunted it had never left, and somewhere in the silence, in the unseen depths of the darkened halls, it waited for the next soul to step inside.